Hello, friends. Glad to share with you again. I'm really happy that you're coming back. I hope you're finding these videos helpful and then part of your daily walk and devotion time. You probably just got done hearing Pastor Carey talk about standing tall in our No Matter What series through 1 Peter. And I have a couple questions for you. Have you ever traveled? Where have you traveled to? Does it feel like you're at home when you travel? Have you ever felt uncomfortable? How so? These questions lead me to look at just a couple of the verses that that Carey was talking about in this past session on 1 Peter. We're going to look at just 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 11 and 12. Dear friends, I urge you as aliens and strangers in the world to abstain from sinful desires, which war against your soul. Live such good lives among the pagans that though they accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day he visits. I'm ashamed, and I'll open up a little bit here to you, but I'm ashamed how often I feel at home here on earth, and how often I have these earthly desires to kind of fit in, or earthly desires to kind of get ahead the way the rest of the world looks at getting ahead. When this passage is be an alien and stranger to this world. This isn't your home. Don't get comfortable here. You're just visiting. You're just passing through. It's made a lot more sense to me. Maybe this verse is confusing to you, but it's made a lot more sense to me as I've traveled. I've traveled a ton, but I've traveled a bit. I've been to Europe a few times. I've been to Honduras, so South America, a few times. I've traveled around from coast to coast in the U.S. and top to bottom. It's been a lot of fun. I love seeing things around the U.S. And when I travel, I try my hardest. It's almost laughable if you were to travel with me, how much I try to fit in. I don't want to stick out. I don't want to see the things tourists see. I want to see things off the beaten path. I want to live almost like I'm a local wherever I go. And so in the U.S., that can be pretty easy. I mean, there are some parts of the U.S. where they have an accent, and so by me talking, I might not fit in. But I try knowing public transportation, or if I'm going to use a car, I like to know how to get around without driving crazy or look, people being like, where's that guy from? Dang foreigner, So so I just try to really fit in whenever I go somewhere. And again, it's easier in the U.S., but when I travel to like Honduras or over into parts of Europe where they don't speak English, the moment I open my mouth, it's like, okay, he's not from around here. Even then, I try my hardest. Again, don't go places tourists go. But so my wife and I, for one of our anniversaries, we were like, okay, hey, let's go to England because they speak English there. And I remember having this experience where, I was trying my hardest again to kind of fit in everywhere. We're taking the tube. Pastor Carey talked about the tube in a message a couple weeks ago. And we're riding on the tube, and I just had this overwhelming feeling that I hadn't even said a word. I wasn't talking or anything. And I just knew that I wasn't fitting in. I knew that everybody there, I could see their eyes, as they glanced at me, take me in and, look me up and down. They knew I was not from around there. And it was like, a lot of times, I didn't even know what I could do to kind of change that. And it made me really uncomfortable. It was like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? It was ridiculous. I wanted to run back to our room and just hide there the whole time and not even see any of the sights or anything. We did go around, but the point was that I felt like a stranger. And in some of those instances, maybe you felt that too. As you've traveled, you're like, okay, I feel like I'm not from around here. People are looking at me and they know I'm not from around here. And that's the way that Peter, he wants us to live. He wants us to be that way. You're not from around here. And he does it, and is it so that we will avoid troubles? No. He says when people persecute, when there's trouble, when that trouble finds you, they won't have anything bad to say about you, but instead they will praise you. No, that's not what it says. Tesnia, it says that they will praise your God and Father. So my hope for you, but largely my hope for me, my hope for us, is that we will choose to live like strangers here. That we won't be looking at what the world looks like to be able to get ahead, but instead we will look to live like strangers, following Christ's example in order to bring God glory and praise. See you next week.